Shoot. All right, though. Besides the freaking Genshin talk, let's hop into this interview, man. Cause man, you have blown up. Let's talk about that, dude. Like, how does it feel to be like a Warframe content
It's
creator, dude?
it's interesting because it's like I feel like I look one way and I realize I'm no longer there, and there's something to be proud of. But at the same time, I look in front and think, but I'm also not there, and there's still so much further to go. And then I ask myself, when will I be satisfied? Which sometimes it's nice knowing that there's always a drive there, but then I also wonder, when will I choose to maybe split to a different game? But I haven't really thought how I want to take reins of that yet so far. But I do feel that a big part of the success is that. Okay, let me close my door.
No problem.
I don't know if that picked that up. I do feel a big part of the success is from the people I've met along the way. Not only do they help me iron out some ideas or rough parts of the theory crafting, but sometimes it's just inspiration to keep going when things don't work out. Like the Tenet Spirex video I put in the community post, but that took me 11 liches in a little over 24 hours because I kept getting sent 26, 25, and 28% liches my way nonstop. Like, it was nice that I was getting Spirexes very quickly, but that doesn't really help when every single one of them is bottom of the barrel quality. Besides that, there's just been people that keep me along the way where they're just checking in to make sure that things are still going right and just don't stress over it too hard if things don't work out your way. And that's what I think is the most important part, since I do spend so much time working on my stuff, watching over it, treating it basically like my baby.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't make enough time for myself sometimes, and I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
like
4 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, like sometimes for me, like I've been kind of taking a break because one thing I noticed about making content for YouTube or anything in general, you always after you're done creating it, you're always checking up on it, making sure that it's it's proper, it's right, it's correct. And Sony Vegas be lagging like like crap when you start adding like a whole bunch of clips and stuff like that. So making sure everything is like frame perfect and just making sure everything is right, and then when you upload it, you want to make sure that people are they like what they see. And then like for me, I heart every comment that I see because it's just like I appreciate you guys for being here, and I value your input and like what do you want to see. But like after a while, for me, like that's why I've just been kind of doing my own thing, you know what I mean, just kind of relaxing. And I think that's pretty important too, that sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah.
Like for me, you freaking smashed this lit this freaking update, dude. Like you it's like I was like, yo, this man's pumping out videos back to back to back to back. Yo, and you blew up. You're getting close to 20K, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're almost there. Like I can say from like right now, I already see your name on like videos. Like I was watching one of Grindhard Squad's videos where he's talking about like the proboscis Cernos, and he was using electric damage, and he was saying like heat is not all that powerful. And I saw someone in the comments that's like Aznvasions wants to have a word with you. I was like, oh my lord.
It's going to be like Dystopia wants to talk to you.
Oh yeah. Like, so you're starting to like really cement your place in the Warframe community with these quality uploads, and you're like you've only like I think this is like the how can I say it? This is like the like your like your entrance, dude. You got the WWE theme playing in the background. Like, you just popped up with this update, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people's gonna expect some really good stuff when the new war drops from you.
Yeah,
because you got the information on point.
I feel like that update is actually going to be really important for me, and I'm kind of just I'm trying to figure out roughly when it will drop, because that type of stuff I kind of need to plan in advance, since, as you said, where I was just pumping out videos constantly. It's very difficult for me to upload more than once every 2 days unless I know exactly what I'm doing and I manage the time well, just because of, well, how long it takes to put stuff out. And I do feel it is very easy to feel the burn if I start not knowing exactly what I want to do, so I spend more time trying to figure out what I should do next and how I should do this, who should I ask for questions about, like XYZ. So that was definitely a very big part of how I think the Sisters update went well, because honestly, it was basically all according to plan. Like, I looked at the topics I could cover, things I thought would be covered first by other people just because of the style I choose to present my information, which consequently would make it take longer. And I just picked topics that I don't think people would immediately go for because it's either not easily accessible or it's just more complicated. Because, well, I like more complicated topics.
Oh yeah.
And that's just kind of how it played out. And afterwards, as things rolled out after the first week or two, I just looked at what topics left that I chose to intentionally skip the first time that I felt weren't covered well enough. And then I would just make a video on it.
So you're really methodical when it comes to your videos. Everything's got to be planned out.
To a certain extent. Right now, I'm basically just in, I guess you could call it the cleanup phase, where I'm just looking at things I'm personally willing to cover that values to me. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to cover every single one of the Sister and Lich weapons. I do want to, but I mean, some of them just aren't that interesting. Like, I've seen enough reviews about the Diplos where, cool, it's just another crit pistol. It has an interesting alt fire. Unfortunately, the alt fire is extremely underwhelming and depressing. So it's kind of like, okay, so we have an Axomati Prime, basically, but reskinned with a gimmicky alt fire that doesn't really do anything at all. And the pistols look nice-ish, I guess. The animations are really cool, but I guess you could call it a skin at this point, itself isn't really anything special. So that one I was a bit on the fence of. I'm actually going for another one of the weapons right now, but that's kind of why I took a break, like I told you earlier, because the RNG gods have not shined in my favor this time, and sometimes you just gotta let it slide for a little bit.
Man, I like for me the RNG is really what kind of kills it for me. Before there's certain types of RNG that I enjoy, when it comes to like rolling for stats and all that kind of stuff, but I like RNG that's not actively in my control. For example, games that I've played in the past, you do like a certain thing. If you get a drop, it might not be exactly the roll that you want, but there's a limit to it, so you aren't spending all day, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And for me, I feel like that's what Warframe needs. A lot of the stuff that they have put out could have been simplified. The Kuva Lich, the sister of Parvos could have been, a boss that alternates, I guess, its elements every, day or so kind of like a sortie, but in like a format where it requires like a group to fight it.
Yes.
But the problem with that is that, DE isn't, when it comes to animations, I'm not sure if it's because of the new war. The new war looks really, really lit, but in terms of animations, I'm not sure if they are there yet to take on like having like a raid boss. Because in other games that I've played, in weapons like, the Tenet and the Kuva, those sort of weapons you would see drop only from like a raid boss, and then that raid boss would have, like a large drop or a large, like, I guess, explosion of loot, and the weapons that come with it would, have like variant stats and this, that, and the third. and you could do it like maybe like once or twice a day with a group or something like that. In Warframe, it's not exactly like that, which is weird. And it's one of the biggest gripes that I've had with the game, because it's like they're sort of removing the co-op aspect for like efficiency. Like all the hunting, the Sisters of Parvos, the Kuva Liches, you could do all that alone. There's no real reason for you to play with other people. And I feel like that's kind of like the downside of playing Warframe, that it's becoming more of a solo game. Kind of wanted to talk about that later on, but let's go back to like talking about like doing like YouTube and stuff like that. So, what do you think about the Warframe's YouTube community? Because I mean, we talked about this before, but with like the Pope of Awesomeness.
I was thinking if there was a small thing I could add to that point you just made, though. I think one of the things that I've realized over time, and especially with the Lich system, is that the biggest problem is grabbing your larvaling feels like a very thinly veiled loot box. Like, almost all games at this point implement loot in some form of loot box mechanic, be it more elaborate like raids or some other games where you literally just hit the slot machine, the equivalent of, I don't know, booster packs for FIFA or something like that. But the larvaling system to get your weapon is too similar to how just a basic loot box works, and I feel that kills a lot of the engagement, because once you actually get the larvaling that you want and you start the sisters hunting part for murmurs, I actually enjoy that part. I enjoy it a lot more than the lich farm, especially the original one, because I feel the dogs are a lot more threatening. The corpus weapons are a lot more interesting than just the hit scan crap that the Grineer have. The tile sets are more, like you said, colorful, you mentioned at the start, and they're just more modern. But the sisters fight themselves are also more interesting. Some of them have really annoying attacks, but it's just the fact that there is more than one threat. And in the final phases in the fight, they add specters too. Those are basically non-threats, but it's just the fact that there's another element to the fight themselves. Whereas the actual liches, it's just them that you fight. But of course, those fights are still somewhat challenging, if somewhat annoying. But all of that just pales in comparison to the monotony of getting the larvaling itself, because there really is nothing to it. You load in and out of a mission if you're going for a lich larvaling. If it's a sister larvaling, it's the exact same thing. You just load in and out of the same mission. But it's dragged out even longer by being forced to go through the Granum, which is fine. But then you have to come out and get the sister, which sometimes bugs out and doesn't spawn, and other times takes 30 seconds to a full minute to spawn even after you leave. And on top of that, the loot requires Zenith crowns, so you still have to wait typically another minute and a half to 2 minutes after the sister to get your crown back before you can extract. And it just creates this unnecessarily long and very unengaging loop. Like, I mean, it's a growing meme at this point that I just fall asleep in calls, but one of the things that puts me to sleep, honestly, is trying to roll the right larvaling so I can start the entire cycle.
You remember how I was hunting for that Archoplasmor that one night during the stream? That took me, I don't know how many tries that took me, but I definitely, like, I get what you're saying there. And I didn't even think about it as like a loot box.
But that's all it really is, right? Each time you load into the mission, you pull the lever. Once you spawn the sister and you see what weapon it has, that's when the reel stops spinning.
Oh man.
You don't like it, you extract and reset. That's all it is. And all it asks from you is time. But the odds aren't that good. And because of how they designed the sister cycle, it's a lot of time. Or for the lich cycle, it's a lot of attempts. And you get nothing out of it too. It's just like rolling Kuva. You go from can't use this, can't use that, nothing good out of the rolls, to, oh look, a god roll. But how often does that happen?
Not very often, that's for sure.
Getting back to your original point, because I think I sidetracked it by like a full 3-4 minutes now. You were saying about the YouTube Warframe community and the creators.
The
I think
creators, the people who comment on your videos. I mean, I think we both know Knightmareframe by now. Man, his streams are entertaining as shit.
they definitely are. So, from a creator's perspective, of less the community, but just the game itself, I think it's something I've also realized too, and somebody else told me that if you step your toes into Warframe as a creator, you'll notice very quickly the game doesn't provide enough content or updates for you to produce meaningful amounts of video of source material. And you will end up in a cycle of where the vast majority of your stuff you produce is the equivalent to third-party content, like just self-generated memes and entertainment and just theory craftings and basically all sorts of that. Not stuff that is super useful to the game. Like if you look at a bunch of other games that update more regularly, there's so many people just going over just how could you do this better? Did they intend to do it this way? And talking about the lore. But these days, there's very few creators left that speculate on the lore or are creating actual guides for the game, because either the guides already exist for such a long time because the update content isn't coming out, or that these systems are so convoluted, nobody really fully understands whatever underlying system it is, and they also don't care because it's so convoluted. So I think
Well, I mean, that also comes down to DE too. When it comes to like lore, take Genshin for example. People have access to like models. They create their own entertainment through memes. They have the meme guys, and they have the lore masters of Genshin, and then they have like the build creators, and then they just have the really goofy guys like Tectone and I forgot what's his face. He has like a really long name, and it has like Gene in it or something like that.
I'm not exactly too sure. There's only so many people I can keep up with, and a big chunk of it is from the Warframe community.
Yeah, let's stick with that. But there's like,
Yeah,
I think we've only had like maybe 3 like meme centered folks. Like, there's Cephalon Shy, there's SMV, there's Mr. Warframe guy. That we have like the rest of it is just
more
Warframe
gameplay oriented memes rather than just on a meta level memes.
Yeah. And we just have like nothing but like build. Just everything is just builds, how to do this and that and the third. I was hoping that Warframe would have more community based like entertainment. Like Asmongold?
Yes.
He's recently joined like Final Fantasy 14 after playing World of Warcraft for so long. Now he loved World of Warcraft, but he left the game to play Final Fantasy 14 because not only did people say, "Oh, you should try it out," but World of Warcraft wasn't putting effort into their community like they should have. I kind of see it like Warframe in a way. I really feel like Warframe needs more community-centered stuff. When I watch, say, like Knightmareframe or like Liam XP, I don't want to see him running capture or like survival or anything. I want to see him like running like a raid and messing up and like laughing with people in, like a Discord call and say like, just shouting people out or just roasting people. That sort of stuff is that what we need in our community versus just the mundane or minute build videos every single update.
That's actually what bothers me the most. Like, what is the most common thing when you see creator, you want to check in on their stream and you click on it? Like, I bet you 90% of the time they're running fissures.
Running
and
fissures.
I feel like that's not where the game should be for something that's established this long. It's like, yes, fissures are a good source of plat, but the fact that all of the gameplay loop for most players just come back to fissures means that there isn't really anything left for us to invest ourselves into. And that's what you said about the community. Like, okay, cool. Maybe it's not necessarily the game to have those life skills things. Like, okay,
Oh
we have
yeah,
fishing,
nah.
but there aren't actual skills with it. But like, you don't need to build a house or whatnot. But
Yeah.
it's just, there's nowhere else really for most people to dump their time than just hop into fissures.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is something that DE pushes, but it also feels like to the detriment of the community because it makes things extremely stale. And that's what I feel, because I know a lot of people draw comparisons between Destiny and Warframe, but that is the biggest difference of how you can see people doing so many different things on Destiny. Yet you
PvP,
come to
raids,
Warframe
running
and
through the
it's
open world.
almost exactly, and you come to Warframe and it's almost always fissures, and that's it.
It's really sad because here's the thing. How I feel about Warframe right now is that I've been getting to Genshin is what I've been playing pretty heavily, but I used to play a lot of Monster Hunter back in the day too, like Monster Hunter
Mhm.
World, dabbled in like some old MMO RPGs. Some of them are kind of dead right now, but a lot of the Warframe updates that they put out have no value. Like for
I
example,
agree.
the new Prime Access with Nidus Prime that's coming out is gonna be have absolutely no value in the coming days because once the initial day launches, everyone that has Steel Essence, all the market guys, they're gonna open their relic packs. They're gonna get the Nidus Prime part relics, and then they're gonna sell them. They're gonna sell them until everyone in the community has it, and then the price becomes trash. Just like every single Prime beforehand. Every single one is just gonna be flat out not even worth investing.
I've definitely noticed that in, say, the past 2 years, and it was actually extremely apparent once I tried to start uploading. Like, there was a very obvious trend of less interest in new primes because it's just, well, everybody can just get it instantly. The prices just get so dirt cheap,
Yeah.
and it's just like oversaturation of builds, like you said. So everybody already generally knows how to build the prime. Everybody can already pick up the prime, even if you can't buy it. Everybody can stock up and steal essence now, and I guess that makes it more accessible. But at the same time, it just comes down to a question of, well, why bother buying it at all then, or selling them at all? At this point, I feel like the only people that do it are the ones that don't have time, which is fine. But at the same time, it's kind of just completely killed that market side where people lead up to primes seeing it as a new chance of, because not everybody is sitting on, say, like 10, 20, 100k plat. Like, there's so many people in the game that are always complaining and they have single or double digit plat. These are moments where it's like, okay, we can prep up to farm
Yeah.
and sell. But everybody now, I guess the people that used to sit on trade chat all day, now they'll just farm all of this up all day. So you thinking, oh, now I have a chance to farm up sets more easily, doesn't change anything, because it just means the people that had a lot of time will farm way more sets than you.
Yeah. And you won't be making any sort of platinum.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've talked about it in my videos where I've said there's a trifecta when it comes to updates. There's the community, progression, and the marketplace. If it doesn't hit all of those three, the update is minute and it's not gonna make any sort of difference to the game. And I started seeing this around the Exploiter update. Now, a lot of people say that they love the Exploiter update, but I saw that as like a huge waste of potential. Not only for like Hildren's release, but in terms of like lore and what Exploiter could have been. Right? Before Exploiter got released, Exploiter was this spider that created like a snow dome and shot icicles at you and fired a laser beam at you and did like a whole bunch of like crazy stuff. Even summoned tornadoes if you look really far back. to when they first showed Fortuna. Compare that to now. Yeah, she's more visually appealing with her animations, but in terms of what she does now compared to what she used to do is very very bad. She barely does anything. DE, not only could they have released co-op content for the community to do, right? Imagine if, like I said, I hate to say raids, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a raid, but like a really tough co-op. You know, you grab like 4 people, you hop in, you fight Exploiter, there's like mini bosses here and there, you get to the cave, then you get to fight Exploiter. Exploiter's this really tough, difficult sort of boss that drops like rare equips, you know, cold procs everywhere. It would have been a huge like release for Hildred and a reason to actually have her on your team, because then she could get rid of like the cold procs, she could give, you know, shields to her team. That would have made everything, her whole release, fantastic, because then she has like a place where she belongs. Every update that's been released for like Warframes, they have no like purpose outside of just like a different theme. You kind of see what I'm saying? Like each update that they is like, there's no reason for them except if you like them visually. There's no actual purpose for them in the game. If they provided more of a purpose for them to be around, that would make, you know, co-op a little bit more entertaining to have. Hey, we could have an Oberon, we could have Hildren, maybe an Excalibur, a Valkyrie, or just something to I guess make the Warframe seem more, I guess, team orientated, I suppose. Like, I'm used to having, like, in games where there's different people play as a specific Warframe or like a specific character and they contribute to a team, but like nowadays all you see is just nothing but nuke frames and they're just deleting everything with absolutely no purpose. We're just mindlessly killing enemies. If they had like some sort of co-op content and tied important items, like say like a prime, like a prime relic to those sort of content, maybe the prices for that would go up, because then you would actually have to put in the work to get those. I don't know. Like, I feel like it was like a missed opportunity for that in terms of like content and providing value to the community. Because honestly speaking, if that was something that could be put into the game, not only clans would grow, but the Twitch directory would also grow too, because people would try to be looking for teams or like streamers that actually do this sort of stuff. A lot of people don't watch Twitch, well, for Warframe, because a lot of the stuff that we do in the game we could do by ourselves. There's no reason for you to really search for, you know, how to do survival or how to do disruption. You can just get the builds from YouTube. You can just watch that on your own time and then you're going about your day. But if we're talking about Twitch, then I mean, that's a whole nother story. Twitch, Warframe for like Twitch is completely dead as a category. Sure, there's Knightmareframe.
The people subscribe to the Twitch category, or I think it's the follower count for the Twitch category versus the viewership it's such a bad ratio. It's kind of scary to look at, honestly.
Because the most important thing about Warframe in terms of like content is the information. A lot of people just subscribe to like just for the information alone, not for any of the content creators, not for anything else. So it kind of makes sense. If you're not providing like something that I would like to know, what's the point of really watching if you're not, you know, providing me any sort of like entertainment? Which is why I give props to people like Gaz and like Knightmareframe that really make even Brozyme too makes their Warframe streams a little bit more entertaining. Brozyme does like, you know, discussions, Nightmare, he's just memeing all the time, and Gaz, he's raging or he's doing some crazy stuff. I think out of those three, I haven't watched like Liam. I've been watching a little bit more of like As Nitrous too,
Mm-hmm.
but like I can't get into it like in terms of like watching the streams because it's just like I know all this stuff and I do all this stuff, so what's the point of me watching you do it? You know what I mean? So if I'm like this and I'm a pretty casual guy on Warframe, despite what people might
Yeah.
think. If I feel like this, what makes you think that other people won't feel like this as well? Like if there was more like hate being a dead horse. If there was more stuff where the streamers could show their personality and stuff like that, that would be great. Because I feel bad for them where they're just like running like fissures and all this stuff. This is all day and all night. I mean,
I definitely feel for the Twitch community, it's very hard for me to watch somebody where, like, especially for Warframe, because I find most of the gameplay so dull to watch unless it's just to see if they can actually do it if it's some type of challenge. But besides that, it's the personality that counts the most. And I won't name names, but there are certain streamers where I have stopped by and I try to watch, but I just can't keep my attention on the stream because it's just not interesting enough to hold my attention.
oh
Which
yeah,
is really unfortunate, and I guess that's something they can work on, but that also says something to an extent about the game itself, where it's not a tabletop view kind of game like League or Dota, where people still watch that for different reasons, but there's so much more going on in Warframe, yet at the same time there isn't.
it's weird.
And it's funny because a lot of the streamers, if you ask them, do you actively watch other people for the gameplay at all yourself, with you being as a streamer, or do you only watch because like your friends and for the personality? And a lot of times they'll always just say, I don't understand why people actually watch me play. Like, it's nice that I can do this and enjoy and meet a lot of people, but I don't understand why they actually want to watch me play Warframe of all games. And they say like they would never just watch Warframe gameplay by itself, and it's the person that makes it. So I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of weird, and it's pretty much, I don't know about the other people in the community, but most of the streamers I've talked to, that is pretty much unilaterally their opinion.
Oh yeah. Like for me, I listen to Knightmareframe's stream, and whenever he like starts wilding out, that's when I like pay attention to the chat and like what's going on in the stream. Like that's like the only time. But normally I'm just kind of like I have him open in the background and I'm just kind of like doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Warframe.
I'm mostly there for the memes and stuff I can type in chat and get a rile out of people there. That's what I'm there for.
Yeah.
I know there's in his chat there's a lot more things I can get away with than some other people I know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My boy be vibing. Like yeah, man. Like Warframe just needs more like to avoid the more. It needs more engaging stuff for both the player and the like the community itself. I feel like that's why people want raids back so badly.
See, when you were talking about Exploiter, I honestly think the first time I fought it, the introduction was done pretty well. The first arena for the fight is really well made, but they don't use it that well. Like, it's okay. There were interesting ways to speed up that part of the fight, but obviously DE got rid of that because that wasn't as intense. So I was like, okay, well, this kind of kills a little bit of fun because it drags out that part of the fight when it didn't need to, but okay. But then you move on to the next phase of the fight on the surface, and it instantly just changes into this feeling of unfinished, because it's just a vast open expanse. Like, sure, there's mountains and ridges, but that has no consequence on the fight itself. And it's obvious because some of the thermia fracture textures get messed up when it clips across some raised surface while the other half is along the ground.
Oh yeah.
That fight itself, that phase, is extremely basic, but it's also very dragged out, and I feel it's just padded to make the fight longer. And especially the cutscenes for each section that you tear off. I'm fine with it happening the first time. Now, I think those cutscenes should never play in co-op because that's just messed up, especially with how the game is peer-to-peer. And it's also completely unnecessary because you've already done the fight once probably at that point.
Yeah.
And I honestly find that fight is more enjoyable to do solo than in squad because there's just nothing to do when you're in squad because there's so few objectives to start out with. You basically just end up having 1 or 2 people running around and the other people just spectating because that's basically all there is to do.
Which is why I feel like the bosses should be fighting, not like standing around and not do anything.
Yeah.
But like
It's
having
literally
actual
just a punching bag.
Yeah, like having actual attacks, like health. There's a lot of people argue saying like, oh well, giving bosses like a huge amount of health would, you're just making a bullet sponge. But you see, the thing is that you need a bullet sponge so that the boss can survive and perform its attacks. And a lot of people don't understand that.
And the funny thing is they tried to turn Exploiter into a bullet sponge by removing normal types of damage and changing it to canisters instead. But they didn't take advantage of that and left it with only one gimmick to the entire fight. So it's like, why are you choosing to drag out the entire fight if there's nothing to do except repeat the same cycle over and over again for 4 or 5 minutes? Because that's what drove me to the end of the fight of, I don't want to do this again. And it's weird because they put so much effort into setting up the first phase, like crafting that underground area and just all these outcrops and terrain. And they did, whoever was in charge of making the caves in Fortuna, honestly, like, congrats to you. Those are probably one of the nicest things I've seen in the game.
Oh,
and that's a lot of kudos for that effort put in, because it is very obvious that a lot of effort went into making that place look nice. But it's just, why? And at the same
I feel
time,
like everything is just underutilized for me, because all I do is bosses, dude.
And some people say that, oh, they don't have that much time because they have to fix all these bugs and things and like that. It's like, well, then you could just not make that many bugs to start out with. But the other thing is,
they can't use that as an excuse, because what the boss does is entirely dependent on the animation team and the effects team.
Exploiter Orb dropped without a trailer, didn't she? Like, the actual update dropped without a trailer.
Yeah, it dropped without a trailer, and I can tell you why it dropped without a trailer. Because there's nothing to show.
But the thing is, like, it was very doable with the first arena. The first arena is actually set up pretty nicely, where she first comes down when she lands. That is a cutscene worthy piece of terrain.
Let me tell you why that would have been a bad idea.
What?
Exploiter.
It under-delivers.
Not only that, but Exploiter, bare bones. If you look at it in the scenario that it's in, it looks like an endgame boss. If you put out a trailer or the Exploiter Orb, not only considering we've done the fight has nothing to show. There's nothing cool that's going to be attracting people to play the game outside of the cutscenes. I can't tell what the new war is going to be like from the trailers that they put out, because it was nothing but cutscenes. But you saw how I picked apart the Sisters of Parvos trailer, right?
Yeah.
I can tell that it was going to be bad because of the animations and the fight that they showed. If they did that for Exploiter Orb, a lot of people would have picked that up as well. Like, there's a lot that you can do with Exploiter, but at the same time there isn't. You could just show off the scripted animations. You could show off maybe her dropping down the spiders and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like the actual meat, the fighting and stuff like that, there's nothing that she shows. For example, look at how they showed off Signora and the Thunder Manifestation in the Genshin 2.1 trailer. They showed off its attacks, they showed off what it looks like, its arena, but more importantly, they showed off the animations itself. What you would be expecting from the fight. Exploiter has nothing like that. If they were
I'm actually kind of surprised for something as large, but at the same time, like, Exploiter seems like a more simple object to me. It doesn't look like it has abnormally large amount of riggings to give it the perception of it's a large object with a lot of parts. It feels like it animates more simply than it should, which is why I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have half decent animations. And it's also surprising to me because do you remember Nash Prime's Prime Access trailer?
Kinda,
It
yeah.
was in the Void Tower where it looked like it was done by, let's just say it wasn't that nicely done. Where he was rolling around an area and chucked his halo and whatnot. And then somewhere down the road we got Octavia Prime's trailer. And those are basically in two completely different worlds, and I'm wondering, where are they deciding when a trailer should be made versus not, and when are they deciding, like, okay, it needs to actually be decent? And because I heard the Octavia trailer was done in engine, like, it's not pre-rendered. They basically set everything up and just added some extra effects and then just recorded it in engine.
I think it's due to, like, seeing what's out there at the moment and kind of adapting to the situation. They know that they have to do certain things right to attract that sort of attention to their game. Prime trailers are like advertisements.
The funny thing though was there were actually so many people that were annoyed about how bad Nash Prime's trailer was. There were a lot of people that made fan trailers up in the next few days, and I remember seeing one that came up 2 days after the official trailer, and it just completely blew the original trailer away. Like, it was just so good, it was hard to believe it wasn't an official trailer. And I was just thinking, man, how can one person do this and a whole team can only put together something like that? And then it's obviously they can do better because the Octavia Prime trailer came out, and I'm just thinking, man, it just seems like they can't decide how to allocate the time and resources. But I mean, at that point, I think it's pretty apparent that this is a big issue that's been plaguing the studio for a very long time.
I feel like that's precisely the reason why the game hasn't blown up yet, to be honest.
Yeah, it's holding steady numbers in Steam charts, but that's because there isn't really anything else like Warframe. But with how old it is, I'd expect it to have grown bigger than it currently is.
Oh yeah. Like, for me, like, it's 8 years into the game right now, and it's still only holding the amount of players that it has right now. It's rough. Like I said, if they improved on their animation, if they improved on, community-based content, not like events, but like content that you could grab like some clanmates or some friends and you could go out and do, and you get like rare loot, rare items and stuff like that. That's fairly difficult, but not punishing in a way where it's just like, yo, fuck this game. If it was like that, Warframe would be in a completely different space, like completely different. Because here's the thing, I'm playing Genshin right now and I'm loving Raiden Shogun, but what I don't like is that I can't endlessly slaughter things with her abilities. I have to run around and find things unless I'm going to the Abyss, and not all the times I want to go to the Abyss. I just want to hop in there and just fight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Warframe...
Man, her charge attack animation with her ult.
Oh yeah. Like, Warframe has the endless combat, but they don't have the substance of actual combat. You know what I mean? Like Monster Hunter, or what I experience in Prophet Taker or Eidolons when I do it solo. They don't have that substance that could be put into like a co-op setting, which is, I feel like, their biggest problem right now. Having content that's outside of killing just basic Greniers, outside of killing basic Corpus, no one touches the infested, just having something completely different. Like all the past updates that they've released so far, I just see it as just missed opportunities, like all of them. And I'm hoping that the new war isn't that, because if the new war doesn't come with like some sort of co-op activity or some sort of like progression like system, just something that has to deal with the community, I feel like after the new war drops, it's gonna fall off again. Go ahead.
About the Eidolons, what I was thinking about for a while back, without changing things too much, the absolute easiest way they could have just made it more accessible is just adding, like, they already have the 2 types of bounties, but they could have just added difficulty levels to the fight, just like the standard bounty system. And that would have eliminated that ridiculously high entry, because honestly, once you have everything and once you know the fight, it's no longer hard. It's just tedious, where if you enjoy that type of gameplay, I guess it's fine. But in squads, it's mostly fine once everybody knows what they're doing. But the entry barrier is just so high, and I feel like that is a big reason why people don't want to touch it. And that's actually the biggest complaint I hear is, but the grind to get an amp is what it all comes back to. And another thing is, a lot of people hate the Eidolon lures, but I feel that's actually what makes the fight unique and what sets it apart, because it's an actual secondary objective that isn't absolutely mandatory for the fight itself, but it changes how the fight works and grants you better rewards. Nobody says you have to have the lures to do the fight. Like, obviously you can't. The meta exists to do, because, well, people want better rewards. But that secondary objective is there, and I feel a lot of the fights in Warframe are missing something like that at the moment, and I feel if there were tier difficulties to make primarily the shields less of a massive pain in the ass for new players to get rid of, then the fight could be appreciated a lot better, as I do feel it is in a lot better place. It still has bugs, but it is much better off than in the first year and even the second year of release, where there are a lot of game-breaking bugs in the fight and a lot of other problems that I'm very happy are gone now. And so that was my main thought on that when you touched on the Eidolons. The other thing about the Lich system, the big part of the RNG, I don't mind some RNG staying in on the larva links, but a lot of the things could have been fixed by, I was thinking, if they just split the weapons into primaries and secondaries. We have the melees already, but move them from the Void Storms just back to normal sister weapons. And if you want primaries, you go to one area, you have like 1 in 4 chance. That's honestly pretty fair, I'd say, to get what you want, and you just roll that loot table. Or pistols, it's 1 in 4 chance. Or melees, it's 1 in 4 chance. And the hollow keys instead would be used to add like extra unique perks onto those weapons as a sort of like unique upgrade system, you could call it. The equivalent of just the type of special stuff that I say raid weapons would have in other games, as just sort of a stepping stone to some other type of interaction with the upgrade system without making it completely overpowered and just being like, oh, slap on bigger stat number. And this way, I would feel the hollow keys aren't as mandatory from a completionist side, and also would reduce the need of, right now, it's every 3 or 4 days, depending on which reset cycle it's on, and it really pressures people to go into the hollow key loop, but it sucks because you need 160, and 100, if you actually want to get 160 keys in, all you do is sit in front of your computer and play nonstop. It's on average 8 hours, which is still, in my opinion, excessively high for one activity in a game that's considered just part of your bi-weekly, because it resets twice a week, duties if you want to complete everything. Which, to me, that's kind of fucked up.
I ain't doing all that. Like, I haven't even touched the melee weapons. I'm not even gonna lie.
I have them all maxed, but that was because of videos. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have just cherry picked 1 or 2 and that's it. But instead, I've used like 10 or more. I'm pretty sure it's been more than 10.
I have
It's a
not
mess.
touched them at all. I got the agendas and it's still at like level 36. And that's the only melee weapon I got because I was curious to find out what its alt attack was, like its charge attack, and
What,
that
you
was
saw dystopias?
yeah. I saw his video. I was like, yikes. But man, there's so much that needs to improve on in terms of just like from Twitch, YouTube, gameplay. Just there's so much that just needs to improve on. You think that's something that they should focus on after like the new war? 'Cause I personally feel like it is.
I do, but with how big the new war teasers and trailers and stuff are, I'm not exactly sure how big. Like, I know it's gonna be big, but how big is the question, and how far will it extend before they can finally set time aside to do something else? Because it's been a very long time since we've had something that's expected to be coming so soon, but is also so big of an update that you don't really know where it's gonna go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's mainly just story. Um, just the conclusion to the Lotus arc. So, I mean, I'm curious to find out what the ending's gonna be, but I'm just hoping that it comes with something I can call my friends back to, because that's all I really want. Because me personally, I'm tired of playing the game alone.
Do you feel like the main new war update that's supposed to ship this year is gonna bring things to a close and a resolution on this arc, or do you think it's just gonna be another step, like a big stepping stone, and leave
It's
things in the air
it's gonna
for a
be
second half?
it's gonna be a big stepping stone to. It's not gonna be a resolution. I feel like it's just another. It's just a setup to something bigger.
So now my follow-up to this would be, the last time we had an operation was, well, literally last year, close to when New War is expected to drop, roughly.
Hmm.
And they've been slowly bringing back operations and frequency, and they're happening more now. And if they use it as a stepping stone, then I have a very strong feeling between part 1 and 2, however that ends up falling into place, there will probably be another operation slapped right in the middle. And I really, really hope this time that they've managed to iron out some of the mechanics and things that they've learned from the past two, well, past no, it is the past two operations, and somehow find a way to incorporate it into the New War's storytelling cycle in such a way that it doesn't feel like they're quote unquote beta testing operation mechanics for us.
Yeah.
Because from a story side, the operations were interesting. In particular, actually, I'd say the Orphix Venom lore was extremely interesting, but it was just so poorly wrapped that honestly, I didn't even really care, and I know you didn't care, and most people didn't want to touch that operation with a 10-foot pole.
I
So it's just like,
I
uh,
I didn't like the operation all that much because I was standing. Like, my playstyle. I'm mobile as hell,
yeah.
dude. Like I can't be standing around in one spot. If I stand around in one spot, I get tired and I start falling asleep. I
If you
have
went for
to.
the leaderboard strats, you would have been moving around constantly, but you would also have a 99.9% abort rate for the operation, which isn't fun either.
Yeah, I ain't doing all that. It's just the problem with that is that a lot of Warframe's gameplay at a higher level, you don't need to move to do anything. So, I mean, casually, I don't know. I don't I mm, I feel like unless you're doing things really efficiently, like there's not much need for you to move. I
For one of the operations, or you just mean in general?
like I would say for like just for that operation in general, because I was playing like what is it? What is it? Limbo? I was using to stop all the
Uh,
sentience until they nerfed it, and then I
Wait, is
stopped playing.
this? Oh, Scarlet Spear.
Yeah, yeah, the Scarlet Spear. Yeah,
Man, that thing, I would say, yeah, the gameplay got pretty stationary, and I think
they
the
nerfed
only
them.
reason why I stuck with it so long was because of trying to chase the record, and it just became super min-max on, like, don't lose time, like, track every single possible spawn point from the Condrix itself.
Yeah, I
That,
don't do that.
I actually enjoyed Orphic's Venom, and I remember telling people that, well, it was only enjoyable because DE screwed it up so bad to prevent people from speedrunning it that we came up with such contrived strategies to get higher scores. But the abort rate completely killed it, and I remember telling so many people that I spoke with that were trying to get the high score runs, that if the RNG tile set wasn't here, or if it wasn't such a big factor in determining whether you can do a run or not, I probably would have enjoyed this operation that much more, because there is so much planning that goes into a run, and compared to the pub run for that, in the high score runs, you're literally always moving around, and you need to like be there before spawns. You need to determine how you're going to use your energy, because
That's
the energy
that's
gain
like
is very
some
limited.
that's like some raid level
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah. And it's like you split up your teams so that you can get one person here, because you want to kill most of the sentients at the next spawn, since the sentients give points. So you maximize kills on the good spawns, but you leave one person behind so that they can kill the Orphix at the right time to reset the control level to 0, so you don't get screwed over and have to extract. And I was just like, yeah, this is so cool. It's like I'm actually doing a raid. It's been so long since I felt anything like this in Warframe. But every single time we actually get to do a run like that, it's preceded by 5 hours of mission aborts, which the price to pay.
I didn't do that. I didn't do all that. Like for me, I just got my points and then I got my Lavos, my Necromic mods, and then I left.
But that was
Cause
also before Genshin really picked up. I think Dragon Spine was just about to drop around then. I think was it December-ish.
I wasn't really playing. I never really played Genshin all that much. My girl, she wanted me to sort of pick up like other games because I tried to get her to play Warframe, and that wasn't working out. She just gets bored very easily. She didn't find a reason to play or to get stronger in the game. So she ended up leaving too. She said, you know, you should try picking up some other games, try playing some other games. I tried Genshin. At first I liked it, but it didn't hook me because I wasn't a fan of like the characters. But as like more characters started to come in, I was like, ooh, you know, this character looks nice. And then I saw Eula. Eula is what got me back into the game. When I saw Eula, I was just like, oh, it's time. And I hopped back into it because her playstyle reminds me of a class that I used to play in Dragon Nest called the Gladiator, which is like this really fast-paced swordsman class. Though she doesn't have like the mobility of the Gladiator, a lot of her attacks reminds me of that, and like her ultimate, I was just like, you know, I'm a fan of just like really fast two-handed characters that have some really sleek animations, and plus she had like high thighs. How can you go wrong?
Speaking of Eula, you reminded me, and I want to check. They still haven't fixed the animation between her first and second attack. It's still missing. That's irritating me a lot. When you pointed that out to me, I couldn't unsee it.
Listen, there's one thing that I'm about, and I'm all about visuals. Right? I love me some animations. I love me some sleek looking characters, some colorful looking characters. Like, I love all of that. if you have animations down, you got me. And when I saw Eula, when I saw Zhao, when I saw Kazuha, I was like, I gotta have them. I gotta have them, dude.
I like Yoimiya's animations, but her DPS isn't good enough for me. It's not even a problem like I need the meta DPS, but it's literally that she looks like she could do AoE, but she can't do AoE. And I already have a Hu Tao, and I already have a built Fischl, so it's like, what can she do on the team for me? And also 5-star, so like, poor free-to-play moment.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
The reruns are coming back. I think Ye isn't anywhere on the horizon, but apparently Ganyu's speculated to come back soon, TM.
Oh, well, hopefully.
So I don't know what to make about that, because I kind of want to pull for Ye, but I don't know. I don't really have enough to pull for Ganyu if she comes back soon. But if I pull for Ganyu, I definitely won't have enough for Ye.
We can't get into Genshin stuff. You know, Warframe people, they don't hate.
Sure.
They don't like Genshin, yeah. Man. They don't like colors. It looks too vibrant. But
alright, control drag, delete section.
Now I'll probably keep this in. Yeah. But in terms of like Warframe and like its future, where do you think the game is gonna go? Like past the new war?
I'm honestly somewhat worried, because as much as people say, oh, the game's always gonna die, and it's like, well, the game's still alive. But I don't really know where they can take it, since unless they choose to somehow expand into the Tau, I've always wanted them to eventually expand into the Tau system.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that is a huge amount of commitment and effort, and I don't know if they're ready for that, or if that's ever going to happen, at least in the realistic future. But that's why I was hoping, and why I asked you if you think what we're getting in the new war is just another big stepping stone to maybe second half, or maybe thirds. So 2/3, third, final third. But
there's a lot that we haven't seen. We haven't seen. Okay, so we have Ballast, right?
Yes.
There's a few characters that's missing. The other major Sentients, the other major executors for the Orokin, Arlo, which is the infested boss at the moment, who has a whole new, like, I guess a completely new variant of infestation. We have Parvos Granum and the third Orb Mother. We'll see what he's gonna be doing with that. They're saying that they're gonna try to turn it into like a trial or something like that. But all those things come after the new war. But the problem that I see is that how are they gonna implement it, and how are they going to expand the community? The reason why the new war is taking so much time is because if they mess up the new war, a lot of people are gonna leave Warframe. You see, a lot of people watch Warframe, but they don't play it because they want to see where the game is gonna go. Warframe has the style, it has the look, but like I said, it's missing the gameplay, the animations, and the content to make people want to come back. Yeah, the new war is dope, this, that, and the third. Straight, we got a new story. But when it comes down to, okay, I completed the story, now what? That's what's gonna be on people's minds. If people,
what that makes me think of?
What?
Oblate series of, should you get out of your bed for the new war?
Yeah, like a lot of people, and you see the thing is that with YouTube now, a lot of people aren't gonna actually sign in to play the game. They're just gonna watch. They're just gonna watch on YouTube. So if it's just a cinematic, a lot of people don't mind spoiling themselves and they're just gonna watch it on YouTube and not even play the game. But if the new war brings in, like I said, some sort of raid-like content that actually tests your gameplay, a lot of people's gonna log in for that. Going back to like Exploiter Orb and using that as an example, if the snake boss that they showed with using like the Warframe and those those pictures that they showed on the art animation panel, if those were like bosses and they have like crazy like wicked attacks and like crazy arenas and they show that off in like a trailer along with like the new Warframe and stuff like that, a lot of people would come back to play that. Not the story. The story is the icing on the cake, but the content that comes with it is what's supposed to keep people like playing.
Is it bad that when you said snake boss, my first thought was, oh yes, the Orobashi snake?
No, stop. You can't talk about Genshin.
I know.
Warframe players don't like them.
That flashed through my head though, and I was like, man, this is not what he means, but this is what I see in my head.
The snake sentient Warframe thing.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, Geoff said that it's a sub boss. But yeah,
I did not know this.
He said that it was a sub boss, but a sub boss for what? Is the question here? Because like I said, that's why I have hopes that it's some sort of like, some sort of like raid group content sort of thing. Because if it is, DE struck gold. If it isn't, it's just going to be another update. People's going to play the update, get everything, and then they're going to leave. If it's not anything like that, it's they struck out again. Despite how good the quest is, if it's just another sacrifice, yeah, they're going to give its high praises. Oh, the sacrifice was the best quest ever. And then they're going to log off.
I actually felt sacrifice was kind of underwhelming.
I found it underwhelming when I saw freaking Excalibur freaking slide across the floor, dashing them Sentients. I was sick. I was like,
thought the most impressive part was the AI the custom AI for Umbra that they never used again in the game for anything else. And I'm just like, why would you finally develop actually competent AI and then not give it to any of the allies that we have?
I got no comment on the matter. But yeah, that's what I see personally. Like I said, if they have story and they have bosses and they have group content that can be streamed and played with the community, they struck gold. They struck gold.
I feel
because that's all Warframe is missing.
I feel raids are extremely important to a game, no matter what people say, because while they are very endgame oriented and traditionally, well, Destiny is a case of disproportionately high player counts for raids, but traditionally, raids represents the pinnacle activity in the game where it exaggerates the extremes of the player base, so you'll end up with really toxic people there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is also where you meet the most helpful people you'll probably ever see in the game.
Exactly.
Because those are the people that understand of the trials and difficulties of trying to climb those heights, and just the amount of time it takes to learn and everything like that. And we've had that before because we had the raid school bus server for the old raids on Warframe, and a lot of the people that I've talked to that played a lot back then, because I wasn't really as involved during that time, said that there's very fond memories they have during that time. Of course, there's always like shit disturbance and people that cause problems, but it's just that those kind of activities were unlike anything else in Warframe and how it brought people together. And I feel that's very important because Warframe doesn't have much of that right now, and those are the kind of communities that makes the game last and cements a sort of reputation of what the game can do, what the people can do, and what the community can do together. Because now, besides that, what do we have? Like dojo decorations, which yes, it's nice, but we really don't have that many representations of what can the community do together.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with Asmongold, right? He talks about that a lot with Final Fantasy. He doesn't understand why a lot of people watch him, but they watch because of not only his content, but what he does with the community. Look at the Final Fantasy raids that he's doing right now. If you look at like his content, he's doing with like his viewers and people that he meets in game, and that is engaging.
Hmm.
Right? Saying he's on stream and he's like, "Who wants to join my clan? All right, meet me at this certain place in this specific area, and then I'm gonna invite you to my clan, but only if I like your character." Like that sort of stuff is what is that. That stuff is hilarious, and that's what builds communities and makes things exciting. You know?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's like we really, and it's not only just raids alone. Even have like really tough raid, not raid bosses, but like the field bosses in game, like say the plains of Eidolons. You go into the caves and like there's this underground Eidolon that isn't tied to any lures or anything like that, but you actually have to fight it. You know what I'm saying? And it spawns at maybe like a specific time of the day, or maybe it's just there generally. Maybe you could fight it 2 times a day through a bounty or something, and it's just there and you can just fight it. Stuff like that is what would make the open worlds in Warframe a lot more entertaining.
You know
Me.
what this reminded me of?
What?
There was one time that Warframe went way above and beyond, and I remember the whole community came together. I wasn't playing as much around back then too, because well, a lot younger, don't really know what I'm doing in the game. I don't know if you were playing then, but the Gradavis Dilemma,
Gradavis Dilemma.
back when the
Oh,
event that caused the destruction of the relays.
Oh yeah, I
So
played
that
during
was
there.
a huge thing back then, where everybody came together. Where they're like, "Oh no, we got to do this and that's like, which side is gonna win? Do you want the Corpus to win or the Grineer to win?" People were on the forums just being like, we can't have you win. It's like we believe they're better. And then DE actually made persona profiles for the like I don't remember who they were, like the figureheads for the Corpus side
It was
and the Grineer
Alad
side. They were,
V and
yeah.
Sargus Ruck.
Yeah, and they were actually arguing against each other in the forums and whatnot like that. And the actual countdown of the event on the final day actually led to the destruction of the relays. And there was a cutscene played with it, and it was actually revealed after the fact that this wasn't pre-planned. DE actually didn't know which way the fight was going to go, and they weren't going to force it. And they actually prepared 2 possible outcomes for this operation. And I'm just thinking, that was probably one of the only times I've seen the community come together that closely of being like, we need to do this together, and just people had this unified goal on what they wanted to achieve in the game, and they all shared their like feelings collectively on like we did it or like we need to try harder sort of thing. And it's kind of funny because Scarlet Spear sort of had the same thing until people realized how the relays were fragmented, and how the scoring system and the kill count requirements in the Murex heavily skewed how you should be playing for optimal points and whatnot, and then soured the experience for other people. Like that was an opportunity for them to do something like that again. And I'm looking for another type of event like that where it just brings everybody together.
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. I mean, there's possibilities of that happening in the future with Parva's Granum showing up on under the in the limelight again. He's showing up. So I mean, it's possible. It could happen. I mean, we have like a whole bunch of like underlying characters. We got Arlo, we got Parvis Granum, we got the queen that we killed in the War Within that's trying to resurrect through Kuva Liches. Like we have a lot of stuff that's going on. So, I mean, it's definitely possible.
Would you say it's bad that I know all the ones you listed off, but a lot of them I actually forgot they existed because of how long they've been quote unquote dormant because DE hasn't done anything with them?
I feel like a lot of people is like that. Unless you're you're invested into the lore. I've made like lore videos and stuff like that in the forms of like trailers.
It honestly took me a few seconds to remember who Arlo was after you listed the name. I was like, who's that? Ah, yes, that guy.
Yeah. I mean, there's just it's just a lot of underlying characters. But this is the question I really want to get to. Do you think attack speed and range should be tied to the stances rather than the weapon?
Technically, isn't range already tied to stances somewhat?
No.
There are certain attacks and certain combo strings that extend the range of the weapon due to how the hitbox works. Because the range is tied to the weapon itself, from my understanding. It's not tied to the player model.
Because for me personally, when I was going through Genshin, I was comparing it a lot to like Warframe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having weapons that don't have like specific stats tied to them and just leaving it up to the character would make, or leaving up to the stance in like Warframe would make a lot more sense compared to like how we have it right now, because it just leaves it up to the animator's ability to actually animate and what speed or pace that they want the Warframe to go into or to go at.
I don't know if this is right, but for some reason, I get the impression that a lot of the hitboxes for Warframe Melee is just drawn about as a certain shape based off some point of reference of the weapon that's doing the attack. Because it seems to roughly follow the weapon well, but it almost never follows weapon trails accurately. Whereas in Genshin, it's the opposite, and it seems like the hitboxes never actually reflect the weapon itself, but rather the effects produced by the weapon. Which is
well, that's how it works in every other Melee game that I played. Vindictus, Dragon Nest, all the hitboxes are tied to the effects, not the actual weapon itself. The base, the animation shouldn't be the focal point of the range. It should be the effect of like the skill or the effect that they decide to put on that slice effect. Take the Raiden Shogun for example, right? When she leaps in to do her charge attack, right? And just all those slice effects starts happening, that's all the enemies are getting hit due to the effects, not the actual animation itself.
Is that Genshin I hear?
God, it's the easiest example I can come up with. Warframe players are gonna they're gonna grief me for this. But yeah, like, which also tied into like, I feel like Warframe Melee has no identity. What do you think about that? Because like for me, like it has no style, no identity, no nothing to it.
The range of things, honestly, I feel should be tied to it should be to the effects, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because there are some really weird edge case animations for melee attacks in Warframe that completely mess up the hitboxes and don't seem to work properly. And that's one of the things that have always irritated me, but I kind of just ignore it since I don't touch melee that much, as you can probably tell from all the big tree related videos, at least in the past. So that one for sure, I feel the range should be tied to stances and specifically those effects. For attack speed, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this yet. I do feel some weapons are either excessively fast as an archetype or excessively slow, and we have too much power over being able to modify how fast or slow they change based on that reference. But then again, there are some stances that just have faster flowing attacks than the alternative stance for a weapon. this isn't as obvious usually, but I think, okay, so these scythe stances in particular, one of them is extremely clunky with massive windups even for normal swings, whereas the other one is a lot more flowy to the point of I question why they even made the other stance in the first place, because I don't know a single person that actually uses the clunky stance, because the gap is just, it's so wide to the point of just, you play this because you want to play a functioning melee, or you play this because you hate yourself and don't want to be able to hit anything before you get hit.
A lot of the animations that they have are incomplete. They're incomplete to all hell. For me, I wouldn't mind if they just, I feel like melee it's in itself just needs another look. The attack speed nerf, I don't mind it. Like, to be honest, I don't mind it. I'm all for seeing animations, but the animations have to be good to look at.
Yeah.
And not even gonna mention it. Was about to say Raiden Shogun. Like, when I look at Warframe stances, all I can see is like the stances lack style, and they have no identity, right? No sort of like martial arts to it, no hand-to-hand combat, no sort of specific style that you would see a person that you would think is a weapon master actually using. And a lot of the animations that they add in is unnecessary.
Do you feel the excessive particle system also gets in the way of actually showcasing the melee animations properly?
Yeah, but that's Steve's fault.
It's its own thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's Steve's fault. He's like, I need more particle effects. Oh, that's Steve. So, I mean, the anime, I understood Geoff's pain when he was saying, like, I've been saying it for years, we needed to slow down on the animation. And I completely agree with him. I think that's one of the main reasons why the saw blade or the ghoul saw has such proper animations compared to like previous stances. The ghoul saw is actually a preview into what future stances will actually look like, because if you look at the ghoul saw, the riding animation that he does is well animated, and not only that, the momentum for the slam that it does has like travel time, which may or may not get in the way of certain things if it doesn't have, like I said, effects to actually hit the enemies to extend its range past the animation, which is its main flaw right now. Because if we when we watched the dev stream, it was lacking in range. Say if it had actual effects and, you know, like slicing effects and, you know, like a slam effect and all this kind of stuff, the ghoul saw would be one of the best weapons out, but it doesn't, because of like
DE's chance to make slam attacks relevant.
Oh,
when was the last time slam attacks were relevant outside of Archetytron?
Oh yeah, like that. Like, I really like how the ghoul saw's animations are looking, but like I said, at the same time, it's lacking the speed and what I would expect from like a person that, or a warrior that can master any weapon pretty much. I think the biggest culprit of that is like the stabs and the polearms and the katana stances.
Looking in katana stances, I can't even tell what is going on. It just looks like you move from one like position to another position.
Yeah, like, and even like the when I was showcasing like the Gera the Gera build video that I put out with the Kana doing like the slide thing, I was just like, oh my gosh, I wish she was just moving her feet. Oh, like I get so sick when I see like the sliding, that just no foot movement and she's just moving forward. I hate that, dude. And there's like And the craziest thing is that there's no sparks from her feet showcasing that she's sliding against the floor or anything like that. Because apparently Warframes are made of like metal, so you would expect like some sparks to show that she's sliding across the floor, and like her feet is just too sharp that she just can't slow down. Like there's nothing to showcase that. So like a lot of the animations are just really lazily done, and like, oh, I don't even want to get into that. I wish some of the animations that we have in Genshin was in Warframe. Not gonna cap.
I feel like they need to strike this good balance, because even a lot of the stances for normal melee attacks, they feel like they have no weight. Like, sure, they've improved some of the aesthetic like effects of the slashing wave itself. Some of the sounds look better, but it feels a lot of the time like I'm swinging a chunk of plastic and it just somehow cuts the enemies because they're made of, I don't know, butter? It doesn't have that weird, like, that satisfying slash that, especially, okay, so if I have to compare this to that game, it's mainly the sword users, where it's like the sword is your most basic type of weaponry, yet over there it still feels like it carries weight and it's satisfying to go through the motions and hit things with it.
Oh yeah.
Yet in Warframe, you take a sword out and it's just, all right, I need to use the E stance combo so that I can force proc slash. Like, that's all people think about. There's no satisfying cut. It's just get to the second attack so you can proc slash.
Yeah, and it's just spamming like
it bothers me.
It's weird.
I actually
Genshin,
like the final Harbinger stance one of the most. Although I don't, with high attack speed, it gets really hard to follow what's going on. But when it's at base attack speed, in my eyes, it's one of the most satisfying stances to watch.
Oh, like before the Iron Phoenix got put into the game, like when they showed off the animations that it has, I was really surprised at it. Like, it looked really nice. But the thing that killed me was when I found out that the basic E combo was just that 1-2 slash that you get with no stance.
Yeah.
That thing like killed everything for me. That just made me sick. Because it looks so like that's like the new player experience too. Like, imagine you're coming from a game like Devil May Cry or Vindictus, or like some combat game, anything that has like really nice animations, and you come to Warframe and you select a weapon and you see that, man, I would leave immediately.
Do you use two-handed Nikanas?
No.
So the forward E combo is the exact same as the stanceless combo. And the I believe the block combo is the exact same as another combo, because they didn't make a custom combo for the block combo, which is kind of messed up. And also, the main thing that people hate the most about Wise Razor was sometime after release, they switched the first and fourth attack around. So now the animations don't flow at all. The hitboxes feel like crap because just like
there's no
the wind-ups are just completely, it's disproportional to how it should play. It's like you just have this abnormally slow swing to start off the entire combo, and then the final hit in the combo just doesn't carry any weight because it was the original first swing. And I don't know why DE chose to change it around, but it just happened at some point for whatever reason. And a lot of people hate that stance now, and rightfully so. And I think that's one of those things where they just don't seem to understand how stances should feel when you use them, especially if they're going to ruin a stance like that.
I feel like stances should be like, you build up combo, your heavy attacks or your charge attacks should be like these really awesome special attacks, and they deplete the combo meter so you aren't spamming E all the time. That's how I feel like it should be. But like I said, that comes down to like having like skill and techniques and stuff like that in the game that I've been like I've been a champion for that for a long time, because I feel like Warframe needs that extra oomph of like anime. You know what I mean?
You know what I don't get? how they always seem to go for the, okay, if we make X thing better, we must remove the predecessor. Why can't you just design it alongside and just, I don't know, give people an options menu to decide between which of the two systems they want for a bit and actually collect the public feedback? To see, not necessarily to be like, oh, they like the old system better, let's scrap the new one, but like to tweak the new system more and bring whatever was nice about the old one into it. Like, it really irritates me when stuff like overhauling the melee system overall was nice, but a lot of things were ruined and messed up along the way that could have just been avoided by not just completely scrapping all aspects of the old system when Melee 3.0 went live, because the 2.9999, whatever the hell it was, when it was a mix between the current and the original system, I feel that was actually better than what we finally got at the end.
I don't think Melee is done, to be honest. So I'm gonna hold my thoughts on it until they like provide more updates. But from what I see from the Ghoul Saw,
progress.
It's getting there. Not at the rate that I would like, but it's getting there.
I still feel that they need to fix the balancing on the Sentients, because some of the things they do are just heavily unbalanced.
Like their attacks.
And the lack of telegraph on some of their attacks, as well as the really awkward part about how I don't think they flinch at all when you hit them whatsoever. Like, they just full on face tank with no response to your attacks, and they just take HP damage, and it's weird.
Listen, don't even get me started on telegraphed attacks. I can go all day. I can go all day on this.
I think the Sentients are one of the worst offenders. Like, they just have so little animations. I just see them in my head as, oh, look, it's a lampshade that's just floating in the air towards me, and with sticks beside it.
And it's bonking off.
Yeah, that's it. It's like it chooses to swing its arm at you, but the rest of the body doesn't move, and you're just like, what?
Here, it comes down to this. Warframe lacks a way to give you health periodically through the game like any other MMO RPG, where you complete something, you get some health, you level up, you get some health. We have no other way to increase our health outside of mods.
It's also so heavily unbalanced, because you go from being unable to heal yourself unless you're on a healer frame, to look at me, I have operator arcanes, I can instantly heal the max at the push of one button, and there's no limits or restrictions.
Exactly. So not only is that the problem, then we have enemies that attack relentlessly with no wind-ups or no sort of, animation cues. So they're just beating on you until you die. It's literally what the Sentients... That's literally all they do. If they had attacks where if you didn't dodge it or you didn't avoid it in time, it would take out like a certain percentage or a chunk of health that corresponds to your current level in the game, right? That's how it works in other games. That's how you know if you're not in like the right level, or you're fighting something way out of your league. And like in Warframe, there's nothing like that.
Ironically, I've played other horde shooters that are more questionable quality that have way better telegraphs than Warframe, because the Scorpions and Ancients are I put them in the worst offender category.
I put anything that's anything
stuff of Sentience.
Honestly speaking, all of the enemies that we have so far are all offenders. All of them. Every single, even Prophet Taker. Right?
I mean, the Butchers are actually animated decently.
I mean, the Butchers,
but they're not interesting animations. They're just
fodder. Yeah. It's just, let me chop you up real quick.
I think you touched on this, especially with the Grineer, though, where you said it's like you can't dodge Grineer. They're designed that you will get hit unless like they have some type of status on them.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't skillfully dodge.
You're
just gonna take damage no matter what.
They're realistic. Now, I have no issue with enemies that shoot and like hit you. Okay, I'm used to like touch damage. If you played MapleStory before, if you walk into an enemy, you take damage. I'm used to that, right? But what I'm not used to is having heavy hitters like napalms, elite lancers, and all that kind of stuff pop out of the woodwork and instantly nuke you to oblivion, because they have like no wind-ups, no sort of fodder. Is fine. Fodder shoots. They do a little bit of chip damage. You have to battle your way through them. You kill them, and then you get to the heavy unit. The heavy units is what I have an issue with. The ancients, right? Even though the Scorpion isn't a heavy unit, it crowd controls you. It punishes you with little to no animation involved. If something like the grab was tied to a specific animation where it has like a call out or some sort of cue, it would make more sense. But this is like a run of the mill, just a basic enemy in a crowd that just snaps you up, just grabs you up, and you can't do anything about it. You have to put in prime sure-footed to ignore it. Then the bombards, they just shoot endlessly. They don't care. If they were a more well-designed enemy, take like, let's like use the Wolf of Saturn 6 for an example, right? If they was built like the Wolf of Saturn 6, maybe carried like a huge Brockhammer like Lech Krill, and they had maybe like a mounted rocket launcher on their back, and there was primarily like a melee focused enemy that just walks up to you slowly, like kind of pushes through the crowd and tries to get to you and try to hit you, right? Had a whole bunch of health, animate a sequenced attack. So if you see it and you hear its like cues, you know that it's there. Kind of like the lava churls in Genshin. Like they're slow, they're heavy, right? But they're there. They're always there in between all them like hilly trolls. They're always there. Like that they're there. If they had that sort of presence, it would make more sense, because their animations are slow. You could dodge them, you could get away from them, you could clear out all the little minions, and then fight the big guy himself, and then get rid of him. Get your EXP, get your loot, etc. Warframe suffers from not building basic enemies up to a point where the heavy units seem like an addition, like a valuable addition to the group, rather than just another. You can't tell them apart, is what I'm saying. Like it's they're there, and then all of a sudden like you're dead. Like it's unless it's like. Go ahead.
The worst offenders are toxin damage, and I've been playing with this idea in my head for a bit of. I don't think the DOTs I'm fine with, because there's a way to get around that, but toxin damage I don't think should be able to one-shot you in this game. We already have certain mechanics that cause health gating to 2 HP, namely quick thinking, or if you're in your operator but your frame is vulnerable and it will pull you back if it drops to 2.
Toxin damage.
Personally, I feel toxin damage should only drop you to 2 health, and then you have the standard health gate, but it only applies to toxin related damage. So it has the same duration as shield gate, but specifically for toxin on health. And then if you are still somehow getting hit by that toxin damage a second and 1.3 seconds later, then you'll die. Because I think one of the most bullshit deaths in the game right now is just a lingering toxin cloud that you happen to roll through at like level 200 and you instantly get one shot, or like a toxic ancient in the crowd that you can't fully see tries to hook shot you and you instantly get one shot. Like those are the
you remember those times I died when I was doing survival with Gara, and I was just getting one shot back to back to back to back.
Because these things have absolutely zero way to prevent them from happening besides preemptively predicting them, which is extremely hard to do to start out with, by just straight up making yourself completely invincible through like iframes or rolling guards and stuff like that, which is definitely not a consistent way of avoiding that type of damage. That I don't know what you think about that, but I feel that those two particular attacks are extremely unbalanced in the game because there's no answer for them.
Toxin wouldn't be an issue if it was telegraphed. If they were actual attacks from the Toxic Ancients, from the Ospreys, have absolutely no issue, right? Like I said, the problem with Warframe is that we gained no health over the course of the game. We gained no armor over the course of the game. Like, enemy design in Warframe is not tied to the mobility system that we have. If DE used mobility more in their game, and when it comes to like attacks and animations, we wouldn't have to have this issue with toxin damage. Then that would become, it would come down to like how well you can move in the game.
You know what another funny thing is? I just thought up a workaround for this. They could just add a thing that you need to do in the game to unlock it, but just basically once you unlock it, you can just go into your settings and just flick a toggle on for certain enemies, and if that enemy spawns within X radius, if you have like enemy radar, then it'll get flagged on your screen, so you actually know it's there. Because right now I think one of the biggest problems, you can't even fucking tell there's a Toxin Ancient hiding somewhere in that crowd.
I mean, that's a band-aid.
But it's already a functioning band-aid.
There's one thing I hate is the baby tactics where attacks have like highlights that tell you where they're gonna go.
No, this one is just telling you there's an ancient over there in that crowd somewhere. You can't fully see him because there's a crowd, but
when the enemies start glowing, I mean, isn't that the highlight that you're talking about?
No, it would just be like a sort of overhead thing.
Oh.
I mean, what are the odds of you being able to see an enemy highlight when there's probably 20-30 Grineer between you and the actual thing?
True.
I would prefer it to just be a marker. So, like, you don't exactly know where he is or what he's about to do, but you just know, yeah, he's there.
Yeah,
and he's about to fuck your day up.
that would make sense, yeah, for sure. Oh man, is there anything you want to ask me though to wrap this up?
How have you been feeling lately? Because I know over time it's been like you kind of disappeared for a little bit, doing your own thing. I remember I used to always see you in the VCs in the server.
I've just been like working, a lot of personal stuff going on between me and my brother, and like not really motivated to play Warframe. Like I said, I missed 2 Umbral Formas just because like I haven't been really wanting to play the game because you know, to be honest, I'm really lonely on the game. Like, I can practically do everything myself. When the people that I invite to the game, they play the game and then they quit. You know, they just said, oh well, Warframe doesn't really provide any sort of like excitement. My girl said it the best. She's just like, there's no reason for me to get stronger, and when I do play with you, you kill everything, or you have Excalibur Umbra kill everything for you, and then that doesn't seem very engaging. There's nothing engaging for me to play in the game. Warframe has what I want in a game, but it's missing the aspect that I like a lot, which is like the co-op and you know, the hunting bosses aspect. Like for me, that was a big part of my childhood, going into like playing MapleStory back in the day, hunting Pianus, Zakum, Papulatus, Inigo, like all these bosses. I would just go around and that was my thrill of like just killing bosses and grabbing loot and like selling it and stuff like that. Like doing party quests. But in Warframe, I'm just endlessly killing things, and it's for stuff that I don't really need. So I invested a lot into the game, but it's just like, it's not really giving me back what I invested in, like in terms of like entertainment and, you know, having fun and all that kind of stuff. So that's why the YouTube content has just kind of like slowed down as well. So I'm just kind of here waiting for that reignition, because once something I like comes out, I'm gonna be all over it. I was excited for Deimos, hopped onto Deimos. Me and my girl, we was going crazy. We was opening all the relics. I thought that the Necromex was gonna have that really neat, like fall down animation that they showed in like TennoCon. They didn't show that, so I was pretty disappointed. I thought they was finally adding like some sort of dungeon to the game, but it was just bounties again.
Oh man, when we were trying to get that footage for your Dreams of Deimos thing.
Yeah,
I was been like, okay, now we need you two to like land down on the bottom.
Yeah, like
that was so cool.
Like sometimes I wish, even though I'm not like the smartest or the brightest, I know what I want, right? In terms of like content and like what I want to play. But Warframe, what they release, they don't provide it, so I'm forced to look elsewhere. And the games that do provide it elsewhere, they're either dead or they're not in the style that I like. So it's troubling. See, like even with Genshin, right? Genshin has the colors, it has the nice animations, the nice setting, the story, but it's missing the co-op content and the aspect of like killing and slaughtering things whenever you want with your character, which is what I'm accustomed to, because playing Maple Story and
like
Dragon
ever higher, not what, I can't talk right now, ever higher odds stacking against you, and just seeing how far you can go, and see like what you can push for.
Warframe has that, but it's lacking the animations, and it's lacking the co-op content, and it's lacking the field bosses and the bosses to actually provide me with that sort of like content, that sort of thrill that I'm looking for. The most important thing that I'm looking for is, can I invite people to come play with me, and are they gonna stick around to come and play? I think that is a good game. A lot of people, they leave at the very first the very first planet. And I had a few people that play, Steve and his friend Muffin, and I had a few people, they came back for the sacrifice, and after they completed the sacrifice, they left again. I know Muffin, he bought everything. He was like, well, all my mods are maxed, I don't have to do anything, there's nothing in the game for me to do, I'm out, there's no PvP. they all just bounce. So
honestly, although I've made it to here at this point, it's kind of ironic, because this is one of the last things that I thought I'd be doing, because it is actually one of the last things left for me to do. And I remember at one point in the game, I was like, I just want to learn how to do things, and maybe I'll get the chance to eventually form a stuff. And I remember at that point in time, 100 plat felt like a lot to me. And eventually I had enough plat that wasn't a huge issue anymore, but plat still held a lot of meaning to me. Then hunting eventually came, and I got sucked into that, and that was all I did. And then basically plat lost all meaning, because I enjoyed the farm, and arcanes just came as it was basically like a gift, just a consequence of doing what I already enjoyed doing. And then I remembered I burned out and took breaks and whatnot, and I was thinking, well, it's just going to be a cycle of me coming back and leaving and coming back for hunting.
So why not just put out videos?
Like, now it's like, I just haven't hunted in so long, like seriously, or chasing some new thing and hunting. Now it's just the solo runs for the uploads if some new frame or something comes out. And I never thought I'd actually be playing the rest of the game, because it was always a running gag that I don't know how to do anything except hunts. I know everything about hunts. You ask me anything else in the game, I can't help you or answer your questions. Yet now it's like flipped on its head, and it's also like, okay, sure, I'm having fun making videos. I tried to edit stuff before. Let's see how far I can take it. But it's also like, so this means the thing that I enjoyed the most out of the game for the longest time is no longer really that enjoyable for me. So I just sometimes am afraid, and I think, what else is there left for me once this adventure comes to an end? And will I just finally move on from Warframe, and where will I go from there, sort of thing? So it's like, yeah, I guess I've sort of made it, but at the same time, it's the result of me running out of things that I'm willing to do and I enjoy. And I'm just lucky I found another thing I enjoy doing.
But like, how long will that last as well?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any last words you want to say, so I can end this little podcast thing up? You know, self promotion.
79% of you are not subscribed.
Subscribe to my boy Aznvasions plays for more quality guides, for sure. Videos
Subscribe to my homie Nash Prime to see how I kill Prophet Taker with a fishing spear.
Until the third orb, till the third orb mother. I think when the third orb mother comes out, that's what it'd be like. So when you gonna redo everything with every single frame?
You finally fish out third orb from the lake, and you realize it was not third orb. It was Paimon, but supersized.
If you don't get it, man, I can't wait for the third orb mother to come out. Oh, that's gonna be so much fun.